Marysville Roundtable, a discussion on current events, sports, and entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the Roundtable. Today's session will be a special school edition, where today we'll be talking about some pressing questions. I'm Mason Damon, and today I'm with
Brendan Carroll,
Morgan Curtis,
Logan Wright,
Wilmot.
So our first question, do you think teachers assign too much homework? Brendan?
No, I think that the teachers that assign a lot of homework definitely have more difficult classes, so I think that the amount of difficulty the amount of things that you have to learn kind of are in good correlation with the amount of work that we have to do.
Okay.
Yeah, personally, I think homework definitely helps with like tests, and like I don't mind a lot of homework, and because it really just helps me do better on the test.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Personally, I think that some teachers do assign too much homework. Like if you have one teacher assigning a lot of homework and then you have another teacher assigning a lot of homework, then that kind of piles up and it adds to stress. And
That's true, especially if you're taking multiple AP classes.
exactly,
That can be
like if you're
stressful.
taking a lot of AP classes, it just piles up and then it's no bueno.
I think I'm going to agree with Brendan. I do think it depends kind of not only on the difficulty but the subject of the class. You know, if it's a difficult class like an AP class, you're definitely going to have a lot more homework.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it just depends on the subject and everything that goes with the class.
So let's say you have an AP class that you get a lot of homework in. Let's say you get a bad few grades. How do your parents handle a bad report card?
I think with an AP class, it might be a little bit different because, like, obviously an AP class is a harder course because it's a college class. So I don't know how everybody else's parents would react. I think my dad gives a little bit room, but not too much.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm in an AP class and I'm in an 80 to 90 range, he's good with that. But
Yeah,
if
makes
I
sense.
dip below, like, a
80.
80, yeah, that's basically my bare minimum is an 80.
Will?
Yeah. Instead of like my parents like yelling at me or getting mad at me, they try to help me and like support me, and make sure like I try to get a tutor. Or, like they help
Back
me
you
with
up.
my homework, and they make sure I stay on top of my homework.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My parents kind of let me work at my own pace. They've kind of gotten used to over the years how maybe at the beginning of the year I might be doing really well and then I'll dip down a little bit and then I'll kick it back in. Or they've kind of let me work at my own pace because they know that I'm mature enough to like make sure that my grades are up to code.
Yeah, like you're saying, like in the middle of the year, you get you get a little bit, you're lagging behind. It's just
Yeah.
kind of,
If it happens.
I think
Morgan?
Well, my mom, she understands the stress of school, she understands how school is, and so if I have a bad report card, she talks with me kind of like Will, and she tries to understand why I'm struggling in a certain class and tries to do everything she can to help me. Same with my dad. My parents are just very understanding parents.
So, in the past few years, a lot of schools are integrating from books to Chromebooks, and it's become a helpful tool. But do you think it helps or hurts your grades?
Personally, I think it helps because you're able to keep up on your grades using Skyward.
Yeah.
And there's many helpful like different apps and stuff on there that can just help you with your grades, and especially like using Google and all that.
Personally, I kind of agree with Will. I think that Chromebooks and computers are helping a lot, not just with checking up on your grades with Skyward, but like nowadays kids don't want to sit there and read a book. I mean, if there's a screen in front of them, I think they're going to pay attention more.
Yeah.
It's not like kids pick up books anymore. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not like I mean, some kids that do, good for them. But like Will was saying, Chromebooks, they're a screen, and
Yep.
nowadays kids are looking at screens all the time. So.
I agree. Definitely the age we're in, it's a good thing to have. You can have all of your books, all of your assignments, everything is through like Google Docs, and that helps out a lot with like teacher and student communication
I mean, yeah.
because the teacher can leave comments directly on like your paper or whatever. I think it definitely helps out a lot.
Not only does it like directly connect you with the student to the teacher, but it also just helps you with keeping up with your assignments because a lot of them will just be on Google or your email. What do you think, Morgan?
I think it can both help and affect your grade because let's say you're doing an assignment and you're just kind of like not really sure how to do it, so you look it up on Google and you find the answers. Are you really learning it, or are you just copying down what Google says? And then if you have a test, you're
That's
not
the
really
other
understanding your information. You're just writing down what Google says
That's
instead of
true.
what your teacher thinks or says.
That's true. There's always that 1% that can kind of abuse that. what can be a helpful resource. So on to the next topic. Way back in the day, they used to start school early so they could farm later in the day. But now, since that's kind of irrelevant, since clearly we don't live on farms, do you think school should start later?
I think school should start later, definitely. I know a few days ago we had a late start, and I knew that throughout the day I felt more energized and more motivated to be here physically, just because I had more time in the morning. I wasn't waking up and then rushing. It's nice to have a good amount of time after you wake up to let your body naturally kind of get used to the day.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually 2 hours early because I forgot that we had a post start. So, Will, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I agree with Brendan. You just are less focused that early in the morning, and if we were just given more time to wake up, maybe get a breakfast.
Especially when the sun isn't even out yet and you're driving to school, and what do you think, Morgan?
Honestly, in my opinion, I think school should start earlier because my brother actually goes to St. Clair, and so I think it's nice that he gets home at 2:30 and, just a little bit earlier just so he has some time to spend with our family. I feel like all of us get home so late and we don't have any time to spend with family because, again, back to the homework, we have so much homework to do, and there's just really no time to spend with your family if school started later because all of you would be not home.
Yeah.
That's true. I respect about school starting earlier, but I'm 100% a firm believer that school should start later. Like you said, with late start days, I just feel like I'm so much happier to be at school because even if you wake up at the same time, the thought of not rushing and just kind of relaxing and you're going through your day like you would on a weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you think that in school, this can usually wake you up if you wake up early, gym class, do you think it should be a required class?
Yes, I do believe it should be a required class, especially with the age we live in now, going back to technology and everything else. A lot of kids at home, they're not outside like they used to be when they didn't have computers and phones and everything. So I think gym class would be a good requirement for students, not just in high school, but middle school and elementary school like it is.
Okay.
I think that I kind of feel the opposite, that some kids aren't really meant for physical activity. I think that a lot of people naturally aren't quite as coordinated, and I see a lot of times, I remember in my gym class, there were a few students that I could tell were feeling very anxious and kind of insecure that they weren't as good or as athletic as the rest of everybody else, and that running around, that kind of stresses out a lot of people.
So then the devil's advocate for that, because you say some people aren't, physically able. Do you think that standardized tests should measure someone's true abilities, and do you think that it does?
No, I don't think it does at all. I think sitting down and writing or filling in bubbles, answering questions, that's not really showing what is going on in your brain. The process of figuring out the answer and critical thinking is much more important than just testing your memory on a test.
Morgan?
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like some people are strong in other aspects of life besides school. You could be so good at something and school wouldn't even matter to what you're good at. So I just think standardized tests don't really show someone's true ability in the real world.
Thank you all for joining me today. That was our take on some interesting educational topics. Do you agree with our panelists? Be sure to join us again for another roundtable discussion on M6, your hometown station.
Marysville Roundtable, a discussion on current events, sports, and entertainment.